WorkSafe Tasmania, and I'll be your moderator today. In recognition of the deep history and culture of this island, we acknowledge Tasmanian Aboriginal people, the original and continuing custodians of the land, sea and sky. We acknowledge and pay our respects to all Tasmanian Aboriginal people, all of whom have survived invasion and dispossession and continue to maintain their identity, culture and Aboriginal rights. We now ask that you take a moment to read the following slide about information received today. Please use the chat window on your control panel to type and submit questions for our presenter today throughout today's webinar. Presenter webcams will only be used, and today's webinar is being recorded. It is now my pleasure to introduce your presenter today, Anthony Bonney from Grow on Purpose. Anthony has spent 40 years helping people and organisations connect with their purpose. His philosophy is to use purpose to help individuals and teams be their best. This approach leads to fulfilling personal lives, connected and motivated teams, and exceptional customer experiences. And we welcome Anthony.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you very much. And may I commence also just by thanking WorkSafe Tasmania for hosting today and this month, and also for Stephanie and Pear's support in being prepared for today as well. It's a great pleasure to be involved here amongst you all. So I thought I should get going by actually just checking as to what success looks like for you all today. So I'm just wondering if you could take a moment to pop into the chat for me. What are you hoping you learn from today's session? It'd be really great just to get your voice into the meeting as we get going. So would you mind just taking a moment and typing into chat, what does success look like for you today? And Stephanie will start to read out some of those responses as they come forward for us. You happy
So
to
some of
start
the comments.
into those?
Yeah, some of the comments coming through are keeping my team mentally safe, learning something to pass on to my team and work in the workplace, practical tips to improve, foster psychological safety in my team, learning more, better cohesion psychologically in the team environment workplace, more resilience, transparency and trust within the team and achieving our goals, getting some more tools to use in the team. The use of the word tribe piqued my interest. My team and I have staff who have moved due to unsafe behaviours, and I need to rebuild my team simply to understand psychological safe better and what that looks like in a team, understanding strategies to help my team, deeper knowledge, how to empower managers and workers to work together to improve psychological risk management, further knowledge and strategies, know what I can actually do, some tips to have healthy disagreements that don't disrupt our common sense of safety with each other, being able to offer support, learning strategies around resilience, wanting to work towards cultural change in a way that everyone feels safe and accepted, engaging with staff, letting them know that having their buy-in is important, trust in our team, a better understanding of psychological safety to pass and integrate into the team dynamics. Today's success will be to learn skills that I can take with me back into my workplace and my safety role, understand how to identify individual needs in the group, not just providing psychological safety initiatives for a tick a box moment, but to truly embed and create a thriving team that has a sense of safety leading to belonging. A great question to start with is another comment that has come through Anthony, and then having a voice in the workplace and feeling safe. Finally, my team having trust in me as a manager.
Thank you all for engaging so quickly, so early. I really appreciate that. That's fantastic. Thank you. And I'm pleased to say I think we're all in the right webinar, which is terrific. We've all showed up to the right place today, which is great. So thank you for all of that feedback. And I really, I'm very, very confident that we're going to achieve all of those things today during the conversation. So, I mean, part of my commitment today to you is to make sure I'm hearing you as much as you're hearing me. And this format is obviously a little bit stifled, because we can only communicate with each other in terms of this conversational piece through chat. But I really want to make sure that you feel welcome at any moment to make a comment at any time during the presentation. And we'll do our very best to pause in that moment and explore what it is that's being raised, with the greater intention being that I just want to make sure we move through the larger discussion of today as well, and make sure that we don't get diverted into something else. But I really do want to make sure there's room in today's meeting to ensure some different aspects and different ideas can be raised and discussed as well. So I thought we should maybe start with a bit of an understanding of what psychological safety is. I thought, maybe we'll get a definition on the table that would help us know what we're all talking about together. So in asking what do we mean by psychological safety, I actually went to ChatGPT because I thought, why don't I get an independent view as to what it might be? So psychological safety refers to an environment in which individuals feel safe to express their thoughts, ideas, concerns, or mistakes without fear of negative consequences, such as ridicule, punishment, or rejection. It's a shared belief among team members that the team is safe from interpersonal risk-taking. In a psychologically safe workplace, people feel respected and accepted, encouraging open communication, creativity, learning, and collaboration. So it adds a little bit more detail here, which is freedom to speak up. Individuals feel they can voice their ideas, ask questions, or challenge the status quo without fear of embarrassment or retaliation. Comfort with vulnerability, that mistakes or failures are seen as learning opportunities rather than something to hide. Trust and mutual respect. Team members trust each other's intentions and show respect for diverse perspectives. And inclusive leadership. Leaders actively create space for participation and make it safe for team members to contribute. So I think that's a fairly comprehensive thing, but I'm just wondering, please tap away into chat again. Do you think there's any additional definitions or key attributes that are not covered in that definition that ChatGPT gave us? Let's just make sure that everything we see is on the table. What do you think? If you think it's there, maybe just give me a thumbs up. But if you think there's something to add, I'd really love to hear it, please.
Thumbs up. Thumbs up.
It's looking pretty good. Well done, ChatGPT. Nice work. I thought it was pretty good as well. Allowing for people's ups and downs. Thank you for that.
Question. How does the definition compare with the definition under work health and safety legislation, Anthony?
I can't tell you. I am not a legal expert in relation to from an HR perspective. What my role is in organisations is to help them find the emotional connections that enable psychological safety to occur.
Another comment, for me, a space to embrace collaboration. Silos great mistrust in workplaces.
They can create mistrust. There's no doubt about that. I agree. It feels to me, Stephanie, as though we've got a lot of agreement there, and there's been some really terrific additions to that. So thank you very much for all of that that's been added there. So we can see that what we're really talking about is a deep and meaningful human interaction, human connection, one that's really paying attention to the people that are in front of us. So we've got a sense, I think, of the condition that we're trying to create. So maybe what we need to do then is consider this tribe aspect. What's the role of psychological safety in helping us to create the tribe that we're looking at? So, being one for wanting to make sure that we have something defined here, I'd love to lean into the expertise of a global expert in tribe creating, and his name is Seth Godin. Seth Godin from the United States. He's a philosopher and marketer, and he has a blog that he releases every day. And sometimes his blog is just a sentence, sometimes it's 2 or 3 paragraphs, but it's always very short and pertinent. But he really gets to the heart of things. And Seth says that a tribe is a group of people connected in some way by a fashion, a goal, or a way of being. All right, so let's just have a look at that. Oh, thank you very much. Would you like to attend to that, Stephanie?
Yes, so question that has come through, Anthony. Codes of practice states psychological hazards are hazards that arise from or in relation to the design or management of work, the working environment, plant at a workplace, or workplace interactions or behaviours, and may cause psychological and physical harm.
Thank you very much for taking the time to make sure we had that data here. Thank you very much for that. Greatly appreciated. So Seth's got us thinking about what it is then that all of those things that just got shared with us, what's the role that it plays in creating a group of people that are connected in some way by a fashion, a goal, or a way of being. All right. So let's maybe have a look at some examples of what tribes could actually look like and why they've actually come about. Why do human beings want to be connected to something by a fashion, a goal, or way of being? There was some research that was released in 1979 by Henri Taifel. And what Henri was exploring was, why do we actually want to connect? And he said that individuals are intrinsically motivated to achieve positive distinctiveness. In other words, a positive view of themselves. And they do that through connecting to people that reinforce their best self view. And so we are actually attracted to groups of people that reinforce back to us who it is we would like to be. It's very interesting, isn't it? So what Henri's sharing with us there is that there's actually a desire for human beings to go looking for this kind of connection. That it's something that if we're aware that it's there, we can actually consciously bring it into activation in our organizations. Now, my background, I started my career in the music industry, which was absolutely about creating tribes. And it was a little bit after some of these photos I'm about to share with you, but let's have a look at some of the tribes that are existing here. Just think about this. Around the time that Henri Taifel was releasing that research, 1979, you just look in the bottom right-hand corner there, images from the music industry, skyhooks in Australia from that period. Top left-hand corner, the Hardy Ferodo, 1000 with extraordinary thing, Ford versus Holden, all of the tribes around that. Think about the pub culture, the male pub culture that existed during that time period, and then completely juxtapose that. Look at sort of the more sort of like lifestyle and freedom and all of that movement that was happening around Nimban and things of that nature at that time. And all of these tribes are expressing for us people's desire to connect with something that gave them a positive self-view. So we can see that we've got here actually very, very powerful drivers for connecting with tribes. I'm wondering if trying to bring that into the current context, whether through chat we might be able to name some current tribes that are around us so that we can just get a sense in our contemporary world. What are some of the tribes that are around us at the present time? What would you like to share?
Environmental.
Yes. Yes.
Dog walking group. Football team supporters. Taylor Swift. Unionism.
Mm-hmm. These are great examples.
Yeah, chem-free, family, parkrun, political, sporting clubs, project-based staff, work team membership, motorcycle clubs.
Yeah, these are really good. These are really good. You're understanding perfectly. Yeah.
Parent groups, Black Lives Matters, MAGA, Tasmanians who were born in Tasmania. The people I sit with at the Jack Jumpers games, diverse culture in Australia, religion, Christmas pageant.
Yeah, these are really great. I tried to have a little go myself at what would come up, and I got a few of them. Tay Tay's definitely up there. There's no doubt about it. The whole thing around ESG, of course, how we're paying attention to the things that matter to us in our society through that. Troye Sivan, growing powerhouse there, tribe builder. Of course, we've got the American presidential campaign happening, and the absolutely annihilation of Sydney by Brisbane on the weekend, in the grand final. So, these are absolutely examples of what we're talking about. There's no doubt about that. So, we know that tribes are building around us, right? We know that people have a desire to participate in those tribes. So I would be suggesting that we have this wonderful opportunity in our organisations to know that people are wanting to connect to something that matters to them. So that it's already there. We don't have to manufacture that desire. What we have to do is work out what really matters to us and how do we bring that to life. Because there's one last thing, there's one last piece, if we can pay attention to it, by understanding what matters to us as an organisation or as a team, and by bringing that to life, is we're activating a key human desire, which is that desire for self-determination. The process by which a person controls their own life. I just think this image really speaks to it. I have a young daughter. She's this girl, there's no question about it, mind exploding all over the place. And I just think about, if we can really understand that people want to connect, and what they're looking to do though is to self-actualize for themselves through that connection. They're looking for their best self view, and they're looking to connect to a group so that they can self-actualize through that process. We have all the drivers we need in our organizations to get people really connected, right? So why are organizations not psychologically safe? Right? So why do people not feel safe to really step into this wonderful desire that they have to actually undertake it? So I want to then just maybe explore something, right? And I'd love to do our first poll of the day in doing it. So we're going to do 2 polls in a row here, right? So the first poll is, I'd love you to explore this response for me. Is a tribe created through natural human desire to connect, shared goals, shared meaning, shared behaviours, harnessing self-determination, or combining all of these? Let us know. I love watching these polls come in. It's always really interesting to see what people are thinking. It's great. Thanks so much, everyone, for engaging so fully. It's really terrific to see you diving in and responding this way. Well, do we think we're ready to call it, Stephanie?
I think so.
I think we are too. So, gosh, almost 80% of you responded. That's amazing. Thank you so much. And you know what? The thing is, none of you can possibly be wrong, because all of these elements are important. I would completely argue that combining all of them is a way of absolutely confirming your tribe. But if you're paying attention to any one of these, you're actually starting to really, as a leader, see the kinds of things that you need to be doing to create an environment that's safe for your people to connect as a tribe. Yeah. So even if you were just to work on shared goals and shared meaning, you would be moving way forward in what it is you'd be trying to achieve. That's incredible. So let's have a look at the next question though. That's maybe a little less open in its response. So the next poll is, if a tribe is created through natural desire, shared goals and meaning, behaviours and respecting self-determination, is that tribe automatically psychologically safe? Yes or no? Can you let me know what you think. Is it automatically psychologically safe if all of those conditions are in place? Again, the answers are streaming in. Thank you so much. Again, Stephanie, I think we might be there. What do you think?
I think so.
Okay. So overwhelmingly, people think no. And I would love to. This is impromptu. I haven't set this up with Stephanie, but in the chat, I'd just love to hear some of the thoughts as to why you think no, and there have been some yes answers. But what do we think in either way as to why it would or would not be automatically psychologically safe? What do we think? If we move back to the chat, what do we? Can I do that here? Look at that here. Yes.
Personal background still plays a part, only if they adhere to societal and cultural norms. History of not feeling safe and bringing this history to a new circumstance, misunderstanding intentions, ego. Demands on the workplace culture. People continue to grow and change and learn and are on various stages of self-discovery. Poor leadership. Tribe suggests closeness, even friendship, which seems to be being phased out by management as we are made to feel expendable. Staff don't feel the same connectedness to each other or the workplace, nor is it encouraged by upper management. All these tribe attributes mean nothing if not supported from management. Egos again, people might have the same goals in some ways, but they still have disagreements on other matters. Dealing with people who are all different despite the common tribe attributes. The presence of threat from social interactions, bad experiences. Everyone has their own story. For example, outlaw biker gangs. People are wired differently and have different goals and behaviours. Different values. Some people exploit their roles in the tribe and take advantage of others. Building trust may take time and change as team members either join or leave. Lack of self-confidence in group settings, concurrent goals, breakdown in communication and trust needs to be again supported by management. Disconnect between talk and walk, shared goals. Meaning behaviours may look different to different individuals. Trust, respect and support from management may not be in place. Differences in the understanding of psychological safety. Throw not through. Medical disorder. Cultural biases.
Fantastic. Terrific. It's complex, isn't it? It's really complex. I'm so pleased I asked that question just to get all of that complexity out there, because you're seeing it perfectly. Just because people desire to be together doesn't mean that we're automatically safe as we do so. You know, what are the ways in which we actually build that alignment? I bring you back to what Seth Godin said, which was it's a group of people connected in some way by a fashion, a goal, or a way of being. And he's giving us a steer there on the three things that we can use to help bring people together, to gather them around something. But through my experience and through my practice, there's something else that I think that is incredibly important for us to be quite clear on. And this can exist at a team level or at an organizational level. It can sit at both. Even if you are a team that's in an organization where your senior leadership is not seeing the things the way that you are, it doesn't stop you as a team from actually aligning around this next piece together, which is purpose. The reason for which something is done or created, or for which something exists. Yeah. So it's a person-centered resolve or determination. I think these are great definitions that Google gives us here. I think they're really terrific. And those of you that might have seen the Simon, very, very famous Simon Sinek Golden Circle talk, you would know that this idea of starting with why enables us to start in a different place. It helps us focus on something important. And the thing that I want us to be talking about today is that it helps us focus on what success looks like, right? I'm suggesting that in building a tribe in an organization, creating psychological safety, we actually have to define what success looks like in the concept of psychological safety. What are we trying to achieve together here? What does it actually look like? So let me take you into this concept of exploring what focusing on success looks like, so that we can maybe just see it together a little bit. Now tell me, does this look like success to you? Now let's get in chat. Could you just tell me, does it look like success? And if so, why? Why does this look like success?
Comment momentarily. Happiness.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone looks happy. Team celebration, shared joy. Again, celebration of a win. Achieved their common goal. End goal reached. They're all smiling.
Mm-hmm.
As a group, but I wonder if it does for each individual.
That's a good insight.
Bonding over shared goal met. Again,
Mm-hmm.
they have achieved their goal. Team unity, team gain success overall. Hard work has paid off with a win for the team. They are the best team. The cost to get this achievement is unknown.
Yes, that's a great insight.
Yes, if success is winning that particular thing.
Mm-hmm.
That would be dependent on what the goal was. This could be one win amongst 10 losses, so not necessarily success, but a win.
Great, really great responses. Somebody's also responded, there's tinsel, so they're clearly, they're clearly winning, so there's tinsel there. It is, look, it's a form of success for sure, isn't it? You know, it's got all the markers, you know, that we're so used to. You know, they're hoisting the cup, they're smiling, their arms are around each other, they're really happy. All of those things are in place. So I can see that, absolutely, yeah. We also know that on the field right at the moment, there's another team doing something, you know, and they're lying on the field and they're miserable and they're not talking and their heads are down, yeah. And the thing I would pose you is, I wonder if either side actually has any control over this kind of success. Could they actually control whether they were going to win or not? Yeah. Because, you know, at the end of the day, there's the bounce of the ball, there's the blow of the whistle. You know, if both teams actually activated their plan to a perfect degree, they still couldn't guarantee that success was going to happen. So, picking up on some of the comments there, it's important to really be clear around what the deeper success is that we're looking for. Or, as a guy called Fred Kaufman, who wrote the book Conscious Business, calls it, success beyond success. What are the things that we can control, that we can bring to life here, that regardless of the outcomes, we know we're playing for those things every day? Okay, so imagine this team, for example. Yeah, they've won the cup, so they've won more games than they've lost. There's no doubt about that. You know, they've been a terrific team, and they've also had all the luck on their side that they've needed to actually make their way through. Right, so there's been skill, and there's been positive outcomes, and all of those sorts of things. But imagine if after this moment of elation, they look at each other and they can't stand playing with each other anymore, right? Or imagine if their combined culture as a team is such that their sponsors really don't want to support them anymore. Where I'm going with this is really important for a team in understanding in building a tribe, and through that creating psychological safety, and through psychological safety creating a tribe, that we're really, really clear on what does success look like for us as a team when we're gathering together. What is it that we're playing for? And our purpose together is to come together every day to play for that. How do we show up to do that? Because here's an example of exactly the same game, played to exactly the same rules, if fully applied, but that has a completely different intention to it. Yeah. Why? Tell me again through chat. Why is this successful? Do we think? How does this show success?
Teamwork. They're learning again at teamwork and having fun, working together, childhood development, learning teamwork and physical abilities, unity and collaboration, new skill development, playing fairly together, doing what they love, focus on the same thing and moving forward together.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone's having a go. They're all focused, play and fun. The kids don't care about the rules of the game.
Mm-hmm.
In the moment, it looks like they're working together, looking cute, sharing, kids playing to learn, teamwork, support from others, coordinated play, eye on the prize, for example, the ball, appreciating all contributions, feeling of belonging, enjoying the present as opposed to simply there to win. Again, childhood development and learning how to work together and have fun. Participation, it looks mostly like cooperation, innocence.
Mm-hmm.
Teams will jostle. I feel this shows teamwork, learning, building, friendships, adding to their life experience, self-growth and confidence.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you for all of that, everybody. That's fantastic. I particularly love the little person in the goal behind the main photo there, facing entirely away from the action, looking through the net. You know, you're summing up perfectly. These people are participating with a completely different idea of what success looks like, and the people that are organising it have a completely different idea of what success looks like. You know, there's community there. There are parents and guardians participating. You know, it's a really, you know, everyone's outside enjoying, you know, the weather and their time. You know, that little player's getting to wear her pink socks. I mean, it's fantastic, isn't it? You know, but where we're going here is we all know what success looks like here, but I wonder if anyone actually sat down and articulated that when they're actually leading these groups and these teams. I'm wondering if anybody actually really put it together that for us to make sure that these children are achieving everything we want them to achieve through this version of the game, that we actually really know what we're leading into. And this is where we get a little bit more technical now, right? So we've been talking about this conceptually. You know, what are we looking like? We know that people want to join a tribe. We know that there's a predisposition for that. We know that people are wanting to express their self-determination. We're now exploring this idea that we've got to be really clear about what does success look like for us in creating our tribe and creating that psychological safety. What are the conditions here in this list and chat that we need to bring into our teams? You know, what does it look like when we're learning and building and creating friendships at work? What does it look like in terms of self-growth and confidence? What are those things? You know, how do we articulate them so that we can be really clear on what our success looks like? And the way into that is through this model that was created by Wilbur. And it's this understanding of how to create a feedback loop to get this right, to understand how to step into this together. And it always starts with the I. What matters to me? Now, if you're a leader of a team or you're a participant in a team, it doesn't matter. The I is really, really important, because if you can't articulate to yourself, what actually puts you into happiness, health, and flow, if you can't articulate the reasons why success would show up in this tribe that you're participating in, how can you expect anybody else to possibly understand that? we have to take responsibility for being able to articulate for ourselves what it is that we want. Yeah. And it's the coming together through the what matters to us that enables us to build that trust, solidarity, mutual support. You know, it's the thing, it's the piece where I hear who you are and I know that you're hearing who I am. And so let's have a look at that together and see what has popped out between us as being important, because that is what we therefore decide to do together. That's our success. What does that actually look like? And the feedback loop is you can feed that back into, yes, that is feeding me as an individual. That is supporting my ability to have my best self view of myself in this tribe. Remembering Typhel, looking for that positive distinctiveness. Yes, this idea of success, what it looks like here, is something I want to commit to, because that does make me feel good about myself and how I want to participate. And that is creating this virtual cycle of activity that is defining the shared purpose of the team. Yeah. I'm just wondering if I could get a thumbs up or a thumbs down in terms of understanding where I'm going with this, because it's really important we get a sense of knowing what this is about. And if it's a thumb down, just give me a little bit of a nudge as to what it is you might want to know, so that I can just make sure I'm being of value to you in this moment. Lots of thumbs up here at the minute. That's good. I'm just wanting to be clear. Great. Okay. Terrific. Because there's an additional piece to this, right? Because now we're knowing that it's through taking responsibility for being able to articulate for ourselves what it is we're looking for, and bringing that into our teams and encouraging them to do the same. What matters to me? What matters to you? Therefore, what do we want to do together with that? There's this idea of the integral approach.
Yeah. Just a question there, Anthony. If you can explain, who is Wilbur?
Oh, okay. So again, Ken Wilber, another researcher from the late 20th century that was exploring exactly how cultures get created. So he was trying to put some models around that, and there are some variations on his approach. It's called the integral model, actually, and there are some variations on that approach that are a bit more complicated than that. But what it comes down to is that if you are able, so just a deeper piece is, if you are really able to identify for you what are those key things that matter to you on a psychological and spiritual level, and are able to bring those into symbolism and operational areas of a team activity, you start to build places where psychological connection can happen that enables a positive and distinctive culture to emerge. So that's essentially what it's about. So this is operating at a slightly different level. It's just trying to really talk about what the drivers are. And those drivers are, I'm clear about what matters to me, and I'm interested and curious about what matters to you. And through that, we can then decide what it is we want to do together to try and bring that to life. Have I addressed that, do you think, Stephanie?
Yes.
Yes,
thank you.
That's great. Okay. Now, this webinar is being recorded, and so this material is available to you. You don't need, but you can certainly take a photograph of this screen by all means if you like. And it's a terrible slide. I've not ever been able to improve it, so perhaps that's something I should work on as well. But what it's talking about is incredibly important, and it's really it's a terrific guide as a leader as to how to do this. Now, you saw in the Wilber model the I, we, it, the I, what matters to me, the we, what matters to us, the it, what we do together. You can see that going across the top of the screen there, the I, we, it, right? Also running up the left-hand side is another dimension here, the be, the do, and the have. And what that's talking about is, what is a way of being that we want to bring to life in our team? What does it feel like to work with us? Are we calm? Are we excited? What are we? So we get an idea of what's going to be important to us in the way of carrying ourselves. We can then decide into that, what do we do to bring that to life? And if we can do that consistently, what will we have? What will be the outcome of that? And so these two things come together. And so when you're considering how to build a tribe through psychological safety, and how psychological safety comes through building a tribe, what I pay attention to here is starting in that bottom right-hand corner, what matters to me, my essential integrity, what's created my character, bringing that across into we be and we do. How do we want to be together? What are we going to pay attention to every day? What does it look like when I engage with you positively? What does it look like when you engage with me positively? And therefore, what are those most important behaviors to coalesce around to bring that to life? And we can codify it. We can actually build the rules together that we're playing with together. And the really powerful thing about this is it stops it from being something that kind of sits around our culture and enables us to really know what we're paying attention to in building our tribe and really know what we're going to pay attention to and holding each other accountable to that. Yeah, we've agreed this behavior isn't acceptable, so why is it continuing? We've agreed this behavior is desirable, so why is it actually not showing up in our meetings? These are the kinds of things that help us keep on track. How am I going here for you? Let me know. Give me a thumbs up or a thumbs down with a question if you would. It's really important we're understanding this.
Thumbs up, Tony.
Yeah, great. There's a part about this that is, kind of sucks, to be honest, but it's also just the truth of it, that from wherever we are in our organizations, we have to lead into this. We have to start to example what's important to us so that we can actually start to bring it to life in our organization. Yeah. But knowing some of these models enables us to know some of the structural ways in which we might be able to do it. Think about how you could band together with 2 or 3 others and just have a chat about this. Why don't we try this at our next meeting together? Why don't we try studying this problem with this concept of what matters to us around this problem and how we're going to bring it to life? Yeah. Yeah. The slide is messy. I've got feedback there. I understand, but the slide's messy. Thank you. I'll get someone to work on that. I really need to do that.
A couple of questions, comments there. I think what you are describing with Wilby is terrific, but unless a leader is willing to be open and vulnerable, for example, slightly fearless in bringing people together for those conversations, are we in danger of the leader's voice of what matters to bring them to them being the only and strongest voice without the listening part?
Mm-hmm. I can spend an entire hour addressing that particular question. Yeah. I want to go back to Fred Kaufman, and he talks about this idea of essential integrity. So this is the quick 2-minute response to that. He talks about essential integrity. And what essential integrity is this idea of who is it that I want to be? How do I want to show up in the world? And therefore, what are the behaviors I need to bring to life to consistently make that happen? And the best way to respond to a situation like this is to understand that for yourself. Now, there are lots of reasons why people do the jobs that they do. There's financial necessity. There's role availability. There's all kinds of things. So I want to show enormous compassion and understanding as to why people can actually feel trapped in a dynamic, particularly with a leader that doesn't get some of this stuff. But I also want to challenge that in that moment, we do get to decide how we want to respond. And are we playing into the same culture, or are we trying to influence that culture through some decisions that we're making? Yeah. So as I say, that's a very long discussion, and that would be an entirely separate webinar from today. Yeah. And there's no doubt about it that if you have a leader that's looking to create a positive impact on your system, that this work is so much easier to undertake. There's no doubt about that. I agree with that completely. Let me take you into a leader that I think really did understand what we're talking about here. And this is somebody that really decided to be a meaningful specific rather than a wandering generality. Again, I brought Seth Godin back to the conversation. I love that quote, be a meaningful specific rather than a wandering generality. And I hope that supports that comment actually I just made. How are you specifically who you are in your workplace? And how do you hold that for your workplace as well? Yeah. But I would love us to explore somebody that really did understand this and understood that they wanted to create a tribe but needed to create permission for that to occur. Okay, so I'm wondering through this symbol if we might know who we're talking about. Stephanie, would you mind rolling that video for me that we prepared?
Yes.
Here's to the crazy ones, the misfits, the rebels, the troublemakers. They're not fond of rules, and they have no respect for the status quo. You can quote them, disagree with them, glorify or vilify them. But the only thing you can't do is ignore them, because they change things. They push the human race forward. And while some may see them as the crazy ones, we see genius. Because the people who are crazy enough to think they can change the world are the ones who do.
Thank you, Stephanie. Can you bring me back to my deck? Thank you so much. That's great. Does anybody know who we're talking about there? Who was the creator of that campaign? It was 1979. Again, another big year. Steve Jobs. So someone's named it absolutely. Steve Jobs was fired from Apple in 1995. Sorry, I said 79. I meant to say 97 is when he was brought back. He was fired. He was fired in 1995 by the board. There was a great big power shuffle that happened there, and Apple almost went broke in the intervening 2 years. They completely lost their way. They misunderstood what sort of business they were about. They hadn't really worked out what the it was that they wanted to create together without Steve Jobs there. Yeah. And so the very first action he undertook when he came back as CEO, when he was brought back in as CEO, was to make that campaign. Yeah. What do you think Steve Jobs made safe at Apple after announcing that campaign? What do you think he made safe? I'd love to hear in the chats what you think.
Difference. There's a comment that came through as well. Anthony, only 3 women were in that clip.
Yep, you're right.
Other comments coming through, thinking differently, ideas, creativity and vulnerability, a voice for the people, creativeness, thinking outside the box pushes the boundaries. He made it safe to make a mistake, to be courageous and innovative, openness, thinking outside the box, open ideas, diversity and creative thinkers, risk-taking, being brave.
That's right. You've named it. Absolutely. In that campaign, Steve Jobs made it completely and utterly permissible to be all of those things. Yeah. He absolutely achieved that. And the reason why we know it's successful is because of this. When I looked at their market capitalization last Thursday, when I was finalizing this presentation for you all, their market capitalization was $3.44 trillion US dollars. I think that's a pretty remarkable turnaround from when he came back to handle the business. And think about the diversity of the products that they now have. You know, they're not about the iPod, which they certainly were when Steve Jobs was brought back into business in '97. You know, they're a streaming company, a technology company. They're just they're doing all sorts of things. Now, this is not an ad for Apple. It's an ad for understanding that if you can build a tribe through psychological safety, through giving people permission to do things in your organization, you are able to achieve commercial success through these. This idea, and this is at the heart of Grow on Purpose's work every single day, is how does that psychological safety enable you to do what it is you want to do commercially or for the communities for whom you were formed? Yeah, it's the key driver. Because if you understand the ways in which a safe culture creates extraordinary outcomes, you know how to keep repeating and being consistent in the way that you're actually trying to bring that to life. Yeah. So he was extraordinarily successful in understanding the role of building a tribe through psychological safety and the role that that played in enabling that organisation to be successful itself. So it's just a little case study there and understanding what that looks like. So, you're not Steve Jobs, and you don't have Steve Jobs' budget, and you're certainly not about to make it, a campaign of some sort that relates to, a fantastic piece of visual like that, right? But the challenge I want to put out to you, the thing I want you to think about is what sort of campaign could you create that was developed or experienced by others in terms of you deciding how you want to show up in your workplace, in you deciding to raise what's important to you at the appropriate moments, in asking other people what's important to them in this decision-making process at the appropriate moments. I'm wondering if you could think about those things, the degree to which you could actually start to be building the conditions or campaigning for the conditions in your workplace in the ways that you might have control over as well. Yeah. So that's what I wanted to share with you today in terms of the concept as to the role that psychological safety could play and the role that you can play from wherever you are in an organization trying to bring that to life. And so there are 3 questions I'd just love you to take away from this, so that when you're thinking about this in your workplace, what are the 3 things to lean into that could help us explore this? One is, are we defining what matters to us in our culture? Are we talking about that? Because if we're not talking about that, it's not on the table. And all we're doing is our technical work every day, right? So how do we bring that conversation of what matters to us in our culture? The next thing is through that, when people work with us, or they experience us, how do they know we're succeeding? What are our behaviors to help us know that we are succeeding? And then how do we know that that's actually working? And that's that little I, we, it. These 3 questions are our I, we, it. How do we check in on actually making sure that we've got a positive feedback loop, that what matters to us does exist? Because if it is there, we're going to be enabling people to explore their positive distinctiveness, the thing that they really desire. We're going to be enabling people to explore their self-determination through working with us and in our teams and in our organizations. Are there any questions? What would you like to hear from me in our last 4 or 5 minutes?
Just a couple of earlier comments that came through, Tony. So sometimes integrity means ignoring dishonesty.
I missed that one. Is it ignoring dishonesty?
Yes. And people feel inhibited speaking up in a group if it is controversial, even if it is the truth. For example, negative gearing. Are you able to also maybe explain a bit more around the connection between the I and how it relates to character with how we interact in a psychologically safe workplace if we have very defined boundaries?
Let me talk about it in a very tangible way of how to bring that to life, because I is about character. And I really understand what it is to sit in a situation where there's a power imbalance and feel as though that something's not working the way you feel it should. Yeah. So I want to make sure that you don't think I'm preaching from the mount here, that I really understand this struggle. And I want you to think about it like the idea of a boat being at sea and deciding that it's just off course. And I want you to think about how to get back on course. Yeah. And it makes a 1 degree shift. It makes this 1 degree shift that starts to put it back on course. And in that moment of the 1 degree, it's barely perceptible. It's hardly felt at all. But over time and distance, the course that's created is extraordinarily different from what it otherwise would have been. So what could that 1 degree look like in the moment? it could look like this as a response to a leader. It could be say, I thank you for that idea that you've shared. I think it's really important in this project that we are achieving these outcomes as a team. And for that end, I'd like to respond with these answers. It's a little intercession as to how to bring to life what's important for that team, or speaking for yourself. It's really important to me that as I'm doing this work, I'm thinking about these things. So you're completely taking ownership and control of what it is that you're wanting to be important and bring that to life. Little imperceptible pieces that over time become behaviors that become ingrained. It's you campaigning in your workplace. Yeah. Now, of course, the ideal is that you can go to your leader or go to your manager and say, I really want to explore these ideas that this guy, Tony Bonney, brought. Yeah, fantastic. But I just really want you to know through personal experience and practice that if you can think about those little shifts for yourself, they are the most powerful over time, and they build confidence for you to do more.
Thanks, Tony. A question or a comment, do you talk to top managers?
I do indeed, yes. I work with very senior, serious leadership teams in all kinds of parts of the world, from government to all kinds of industries. Yes, I do.
Thanks. And then someone has said they like the point about showing up and campaigning for change in the workplace. It is not easy, but it is worth it. The standard you walk past is the standard you accept.
It's really true.
Another comment, a very inclusive and empowering webinar. Thank you.
Thank you.
Tony, question, how do I as a manager build a tribe through psychological safety when I'm undermined by senior management?
We've only got 3 minutes there for that one. Firstly, I'm really sorry that you're finding yourself in that situation. It can be really difficult. And the very first response I would encourage you to have is one of compassion, because it's likely that what's happening is somebody's really afraid. Yeah, someone's actually in a position where they're feeling vulnerable for some reason. Yeah, and so they're projecting their power in a way that's making them feel safe. Yeah, so know in the very first instance that what's happening there likely is that someone's looking for safety. Yeah, so I'd encourage you to think through that lens. How do I help this person be safe? Yeah, and you're going to help them be safe through the sorts of things we're talking about today. Yeah. It's a longer conversation, but if you can start with that piece that this poor person is probably afraid of something, what can I do to help them? That's a much better place to start than anywhere else.
Thanks, Tony. When rebuilding a tribe, what is a good first question to ask the team?
What matters to you? Why are we here together? If we so there's so many different ways of coming at it, but it's say if we have a good day at work today, what's happened? That's a really good opening question, because you can get all the technical things. We've ticked the lists, we've made sure that the work's happened, we've made sure our community's got deliverables. We've got great, right? Good. So what are also in terms of the way we interact with each other, what's happened? And you can start to get the two things together. Yeah, we're getting through our work and we're also looking after each other. What does that look like? Yeah, that's a great way of servicing that.
A few additional comments coming through, Tony. Again, thank you for the webinar. This has been a brilliant webinar, and I really appreciate the insight and wisdom that's been shared.
My next call is about to start. Sorry.
No, thank you, Anthony. On that note, we'll begin to wrap up today's webinar delivered by Anthony Bonney. The webinar is Building a Tribe Through Psychological Safety. So we thank Anthony again, and thank you everyone for coming along to today's WorkSafe Month webinar. WorkSafe Tasmania month runs throughout the month of October. Please head to worksafe.tas.gov.au to see what other webinars and in-person events we are holding in Tasmania. Please as well complete a feedback survey which you will receive at the end of this webinar. We do appreciate and value your feedback. Today's webinar has also been recorded and will be made available on WorkSafe Tasmania's YouTube page at the end of WorkSafe Tasmania month. So thank you again to our presenter, Anthony Bonney. Thank you for everyone for attending, and we look forward to seeing you again next time.
Thanks, everyone. It's been a real pleasure being with you. Enjoy your day. Thank you. Bye now.
Thanks.